Donald Trump wanted me to get tear gassed. Once I got tear gassed, I told my mom that my nose in the back of my mouth, the throat, hurt. My eyes were irritated, but I didn't feel anything from my eyes. They were irritated. It didn't burn in my eyes, but my eyes turned red. And protesters were coming up on me, like one of these protesters here. They were scared, patted me on the back. They were worried. Then a black girl with a news camera wearing a red dress came up, and she heard what happened to me. They recorded me up, and once I was done talking, my mom was talking next, and we got all the information. Then we went to my father, Cliff Smith, and he poured water on me, on my head, so it wouldn't burn anymore. I wasn't even expecting getting burned or having water poured on my head. I was yelling quite because I wasn't expecting. And I told my dad to finally stop pouring it, and then he listened. Protesters were telling me what happened, how did it hurt, how did it start, and what couldn't have been responsible for this. These sheriffs and Donald Trump were responsible for me. They weren't supposed to hurt me. They're supposed to be in our community. They shouldn't believe Donald Trump. He wants people dying so the world can be all his. He wants everybody to be dead. They want the treasure. It's like in the movie Avatar. But they faded back and win. No? Sheriff.
And I just want it to be known that we do not have to indoctrinate these children when they experience violence at the hands of sheriffs firsthand. I don't need to indoctrinate her with her own experience. I don't need to tell her anything when people come over here yelling Trump 2020 at a 7-year-old. When Joe Collins and Robert Foster and these other black Trump agents come and scream over her Trump 2020, they marry Trump to the sheriff violence. As Donald Trump has congratulated Kyle Rittenhouse for showing up to a demonstration and murdering 2 people with an illegal weapon and taking it out of state. So understand that these children are already exposed to what's going on. And for any of you that would tell me, well, you should have been at home instead of out roller skating in your community, I would like to let you know that 7-year-old Aiyana Jones was also at home, that Breonna Taylor was also at home, that Tatiana Jefferson was at home, that Corinne Gaines was at home. We are not safe from sheriff and law enforcement violence no matter where we are. So our community that has to live under the jurisdiction of these rogue sheriffs and their rogue leader, with their Trump agents that they're collaborating with, and these self-appointed, self-aggrandized, so-called community leaders, they show us who they are every day. They show this country who they are, and they are showing the world what is going on in America because people are paying attention, because people are standing up. And again, I cannot overstate enough that with my brother Najee Ali, the matriarch of Dijon Kizzee's family, Mrs. Fletcher Fair, put out a statement yesterday saying that she supports Maxine Waters. Yes. That she supports Maxine Waters. And I would like to also put it out that I support Sister Maxine Waters. And she would like it to be unequivocally known that they are not related to Robert Foster, who has been saying that he is the cousin of Dijon Kizzee, and that demonstrators are welcome to peacefully join all the demonstrations, including this Saturday at 109th Place in Budlong at 11 a.m. from wherever you come from.
Just real briefly, I'm Najian Lee, and I am the official spokesperson for the family of Dijon Kizzee and their lawyer, Ben Crump. The family's made it clear, we welcome anyone that wants to come in from wherever you are and protest for justice for Dijon Kizzee, as long as it's peaceful. So we don't care where you come from, just come with peace, and we welcome you, because at the end of the day, we need as much help and support as we can get, because we're dealing with some gang banging deputies. These aren't deputies who should be looked upon with honor and dignity. They're killers. They've executed Anthony A.J. Weber 2 years ago. 3 months ago, they shot and murdered Andres Garado, shot him 7 times in the back. And now the latest murder is Dijon Kizzee, who was riding his bicycle. And then they want to blame a black man for his own murder as he's riding his bicycle. So with that, in my closing, I want to make this clear. I'm speaking on behalf of the family of Dijon Kizzee. We welcome everyone to come in and join the fight for justice. So, say his name. Say his name. Say his name. Say his name. Say his name.
I just want to say briefly, this is the mother of 16-year-old Anthony Weber. Would you like to? Okay. Well, this is the mother of 16-year-old AJ Weber, and she will be present with us. We are caravanning and we are demonstrating peacefully this Saturday. So I just want you to know that we do have love from the community and we do have support from the community. We have been out here for years with these families inside this community, and we have never seen community organizing from these self-aggrandizing, self-appointed so-called community leaders collaborating with the sheriffs. So I just like to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is from Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, Joseph Williams. Thank you.
Black lives, they matter here! 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 My name is Joseph Williams. I'm with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, and we are unequivocally in support of the family of Dijon Kizzee and of the folks who are coming and demanding justice for this family and this community. We know that we have a right and a duty to protest and to demand justice, right? The sheriff is calling folks outside agitators. And it's funny because that's one of the things that they used to call Martin Luther King Jr., right? MLK, who so many of these liberal politicians point to as the model for peaceful protest. But at the time, he was called an outside agitator. MLK was born and raised in Atlanta, but we know about him from the Montgomery bus boycotts, right? And campaigns in Birmingham and in Selma, where he came to support communities who were rising up to demand justice and to demand change. This community, these families are rising up right now to demand justice and to demand change. And folks who are coming out to support them in that fight, to support them in that demand, are being brutalized. It is shameful for the sheriff and for folks who are supporting the sheriff to claim that the violence is coming from protesters. We know that the violence was the murder of Dijon Kizzee. That's right. The violence was the murder of 16-year-old AJ Weber, whose mother is here with us. The violence was the murder recently of 18-year-old Andres Guardado. The violence was the murder just yesterday by the sheriffs in Compton. The violence was the sheriffs targeting a 7-year-old at a peaceful protest with tear gas. So it is unacceptable and unconscionable for the sheriff or for anybody who claims to represent this community to condemn protesters, to condemn unarmed 7-year-old girls and families and community members who are coming to demand justice with nothing but signs. Even in the sheriff's own press conference and the videos they released of the so-called equipment that they seized from folks, they were bike helmets and soccer shin guards that folks used to protect themselves from the rubber bullets and pepper spray and lethal weapons that the sheriffs are using against them. It's unacceptable, and obviously the community is not falling for it. The community knows the sheriff is lying. The sheriff has been lying. The sheriff continues to authorize the murder of folks in our communities, of children in our communities, the brutalization of children in our communities. That's a 7-year-old girl who was pepper sprayed. A.J. Weber was a 16-year-old boy when he was murdered by the sheriffs. That's the violence. That's the real violence. Those are the real outside agitators. These sheriff's deputies who live in the valley, who live outside of LA County, who get paid to come into our communities to brutalize and murder our children. That's the real violence. Not any protester, not any single protest can match up to that violence. So we condemn the sheriff and anyone who continues to support this narrative that we are the ones promoting violence, that we are the ones agitating this community. The violence in this community was when Dijon Kizzee was murdered a couple blocks from here. The violence in this community was when A.J. Weber was murdered 2 blocks away from that. The violence in this community is when the sheriffs say that these children, or that this man who was riding his bike home somehow deserved their own death sentence. That's the violence. That's the real violence that our communities are rising up against. That's the real violence that we're seeing right now and that needs to be talked about. Not this BS that they're alleging that protesters are doing. Even if somebody did throw a water bottle at heavily armed, militarized government agents, that's not violence. That's a water bottle against riot gear and tear gas and rubber bullets. So again, we're here to support the family of Dijon Kizzee, who's demanding justice for their loved one who was stolen from them by the Los Angeles County Sheriffs. We're here to demand justice also with the family of A.J. Weber. We're here to demand justice for Andres Barbadello. We're here to demand justice for all of those who have been stolen by sheriff's violence or who have been affected by sheriff's violence, and to demand change. So I want to continue to encourage folks to use their right, and I don't even care about a constitutional right, a God-given right. The right that you have as a human being to use your voice and your body to protest injustice, to stand up when you see that something is wrong. Because that's what we're doing, that's what we will continue to do, and we will continue to fight and demand justice in the name of Dijon Kizzee, in the name of A.J. Weber, and in all of these names. Appreciate y'all for being here, and I hope that you come out tomorrow to support the family as well, and you continue to hit the streets, because it is our duty to fight for Dijon and for AJ and for all of these as if they were our loved ones. It is our duty to use our voices and our bodies to demand justice. It is our duty to fight for freedom It is our duty to win, and we will do so.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to thank again Ms. Johnson for being here, attending the press conference with us. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is going to be David Cunningham. He's a legal observer with the National Lawyers Guild and a member of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles.
My name is David Cunningham, and I'm a community activist and organizer. I'm also a legal observer with NLG and a law student. I would first like to start off by saying that we demand justice for Dijon Kizzee. Say his name. Dijon Kizzee! We also demand justice for Andres Guardado. Say his name. Andres Guardado! We also demand justice for AJ Weber. Say his name. AJ Weber! For many years, LAPD and the LA County Sheriff's Department have incited violence, bringing fear and distress to predominantly Black and Latino communities. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department is the largest county police agency in the United States, with 9,000 officers who patrol 200 different cities in Southern California. It controls a $3.3 billion budget and runs the world's largest jail system. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department's history of abuse and constant persecution of LA County residents is as overwhelming as its size. Our elected officials and their appointed department heads have failed to hold these law enforcement agencies and officers accountable for their constant persecution of our communities. Over the past week, since the execution of Dijon Kizzee, residents and supporters of the South Central Los Angeles communities have gathered outside of the Imperial Sheriff's Station, peacefully outcrying and demanding justice for the murder of Dijon Kizzee, and that the sheriff's deputies who murdered Dijon are fired, charged, prosecuted, and convicted. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department countered our peaceful protests with violence. These law enforcement officers who took an oath to protect and serve shot us with rubber bullets and tear gas. Children as young as 7 years old were also victims this past week and weekend of the LA County Sheriff's Department. LA County Sheriff's Department use of non-lethal forces. Many residents who live right across the street were also tear gassed and had their homes shot up with rubber bullets. Does that sound like an agency? Does that sound like an agency who's sworn to protect and serve? Their actions were negligent to the residents, community members, children, and peaceful protesters. There was no strategy behind their actions before the deputies engaged in these attacks. Reminder, there were never any disbursement orders or warnings given before these unprovoked attacks. I was shot with rubber bullets on my left side, which resulted to large golf-sized bruises on my chest. This was the second time that I have been attacked by the LA County Sheriff's Department this week alone. The first time was on August 31st into the early morning of September 1st, the first day of protest in front of the Imperial Sheriff's Station. While I was legal observing with the NLG, with the National Lawyers Guild, I was wearing my green NLG hat as I wrote a report of an LA County Sheriff's assault on a woman after she had shunned a flashlight in the same officer's face who had been shining their flashlight in protesters' face all night. I was grabbed by the collar of my shirt and yanked to the ground by Sheriff's Deputy Hernandez. The behaviors from the LA County Sheriff's Department aren't a reflection of those who seek to protect and serve. The behavior of the LA County Sheriff's Department is that of a gang. They are a gang that seeks to dominate, terrorize, stigmatize, and brutalize Black and Latino communities. They are one of the main players in our uniquely American system that upholds white supremacy and also continues to oppress the Black community. This is unacceptable, and we demand justice and change. We demand that both LAPD and the LA County Sheriff's Department are defunded and that the money be reallocated to community servicing programs and the development of more housing to address our homelessness crisis. By continuing to provide the LA County Sheriff with these excessively large budgets, only inflates their egos and encourages them to continue their attacks on minority communities, while also taking away valuable resources that would benefit our community and make them safer. The LA County Sheriff's Department and the Los Angeles Police Department do not make our community safe. Let's put that money to better use. Defund LAPD. Defund the LA County Sheriff's Department. Alex Villanueva must go. Jackie Lacey must go in order for change to take place in LA County and the city of Los Angeles. Defund the LA County Sheriffs and LAPD, and let's get justice for Dijon Kizzee, Andres Guardado, and the 600 plus other victims who were murdered by the LA County Sheriffs and the LAPD. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is a legal observer with the National Lawyers Guild. She's been out at protests since the George Floyd protests, almost weekly, and we are very proud to introduce Dee Barbadello.
Good morning. My name is Dee Barbadello, and I'm a legal observer with the National Lawyers Guild. Before I even get started, I want to show you what I'm holding in my hand right now. These are rubber bullets, pepper bullets, beanbag bullets, what's the remains of a Springer grenade. And as a legal observer who's wearing a neon green hat that they should recognize, I've been hit by every single thing that's in this jar. And I'm somebody that they know. They know who I am. These are the things that our people are getting hit with. These are the less lethal weapons. Those are expired rubber bullets. These are the things that if you look around at the sheriffs right now, they are armed with these weapons right now. For a press conference, for people standing around and talking about their misdeeds, they are armed. This is only a microcosm of what the protesters have been feeling every night for the past 5 nights. And this is small compared to what the community, particularly the Black community, is feeling every day. Sorry, I just had to put that out there. This is ridiculous. Look at the street. Look at the barriers. Look at what they're armed with. So over the past several nights, members of the local community and concerned LA residents have gathered together in solidarity to mourn the death of Dijon Kizzee first and foremost, and then to speak out against police violence. In exercising their First Amendment rights, the community has only been met with more violence and excessive force. In fact, I even invite you to walk along the sidewalk later. You can see the powder on the ground. You can see these casings on the ground. They didn't even bother to clean it up. They just put up a barrier and hope you wouldn't get close, or hope they can shoot you first. These less lethal munitions were fired into the crowd blindly by sheriffs from behind a barricade and 100 feet away, with no provocation, no warning, and often no dispersal notice. These less lethal munitions were fired into a crowd that included children, several members of the press, and legal observers. This is what this community has been subject to for the past several nights. The narrative that the sheriffs are painting is of outside agitators doing damage to the area. As someone who has been here every single night, I can say with authority that that narrative is false. And Sheriff Alex Villanueva should know that because he was here on Monday night. Members of the community were yelling his name and trying to get his attention. He stayed in the back. He had his sheriffs put their flashlights on people's faces while they were calling for Alex Villanueva. So when he says that they're outside agitators, that is a flat out lie. Members of the community were pointing out where they live and asking him to come speak to them, and he ignored them. The protesters are made up of community members and LA residents. Where are the sheriffs from? Their weapons, the weapons that the protesters have come with are words, signs, prayers, and sometimes bubbles. Yes, bubbles. And yet for 4 nights in a row, this community was subjected to attack. beanbag guns, rubber bullet guns. It's absolutely terrifying to feel the effects of pepper bullets being sprayed at you, and then to immediately have that feeling followed up by hearing a flashbang above your head and a spring or grenade at your feet. And that's only what I experienced. And I'm not a protester. I'm a third party. And yet I've been lucky. I've seen people get shot in the head by these less lethal munitions. I've seen protesters get tackled and dragged along the pavement by sheriffs. I saw Messiah choking on pepper spray. I saw neighbors throwing up on their own front lawns and apologizing to us for the sheriff's behavior. That's heartbreaking. This is their neighborhood, they're welcoming us in, and they're the ones that are being terrorized. This is how the sheriffs have chosen to respond to the community's demand for justice and an end to police violence. In addition to targeting the community, the sheriffs have also been targeting members of the press, legal observers, and street medics. On several occasions, the sheriffs have been shining bright lights directly at photojournalists and camera people, despite their very obvious press badges. And as I mentioned before, several members of the press have been very obviously assembled together within the crowd when sheriffs opened fire indiscriminately with their less lethal weapons. In much the same manner, the sheriffs also shined their bright flashlights directly in the faces of legal observers. They were not panning through the crowd, they were directly pointed in our faces. In fact, while I was speaking to the commanding officer the other night about why none of the sheriffs were wearing name badges or wearing badges at all, he directed an officer to shine a light in my face and simply told me he knew my name, he knew who I was, and that he was done speaking with me. That's intimidation at its finest. The sheriffs also spent a lot of time training their flashlights on the street medics stationed at the back of the protest. These medics were not participating in the protest. They were simply on standby in case of injury due to these munitions. A car full of medics ended up getting arrested driving away from the area that night. The actions of the Sheriff's Department have terrorized the neighborhood and only serve to emphasize why the community feels the need to speak up at all. Simply put, the violence and brutality at the hands of the sheriffs in response to the community speaking up for the death of one of their own needs to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. Our next speaker is Persephone Anansi, a community member who has attended the protests the last 2 evenings.
Thank you. My name is Persephone. I'm not affiliated with any specific group. I'm not a member of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. I'm not a member of any specific group. I'm just a random protester who showed up that night to protest. The first night that I came, when the police started firing us and I ran, I stumbled upon a young man who had been tear gassed or pepper sprayed in the eyes, and he was completely blinded. He was like leaning against his car with tears streaming down his face, in too much pain to even speak. And in the process of just stopping to help him, I was afraid of the cops finding me, helping him, and taking us away, because they've been targeting medics who are just helping injured people for no reason. There are dried up piles of blood on the streets where they've injured people so badly that it stains the sidewalk days later. The second night that I came out, I was shot 4 times with rubber bullets and pepper balls, all along my left side. I could tell they were intentionally targeting me because every shot that hit me was nearly touching each other. And that night I wasn't wearing any riot gear. I wasn't wearing armor. I wasn't wearing knee pads. I was wearing a black dress, just a simple black dress. And they shot at me simply because I had been speaking. And then the next day I was shot 3 more times. This time while we were all backing away, trying to leave, trying to get home safely. I was standing in front of the crowd with the shield wall that we had and telling them to back up. And as we're backing up and trying to leave the area, the man next to me is tackled and slammed to the ground by police, and I hear cops coming behind me to tackle me too, and everyone starts running. And as I'm running up the street just by myself, I'm being shot at. There's pepper balls hitting next to my feet, flying past my head. They're shooting directly at me, simply because I had been to these protests and I had spoken. I had done nothing else. I just spoke. That's it. And I was hit 3 times that night, in my back, in my leg just above my Achilles, and in my thigh, the exact same spot where I'd been shot the night before. If you are hearing about these things that are happening and you're shocked, you are blind. This is not a fluke. The sheriffs are not doing something they're not supposed to be. They're built to function like this. Everything that's happening, they're functioning at capacity as they're intended to be. The police aren't suddenly secretly fascist agents. They've been like this for years, and we've been saying it for years. If you do not see what the sheriffs are doing as American fascists, you are blind. American fascism is not new. It has been consistent in every administration since America's inception. None of this is new. And if you're not out here fighting it, then you're complicit. Because innocent people are being hurt. Children are being hurt. My friends are being hurt. We're not just being shot at and brutalized by them, we're being dragged and beaten and sexually assaulted. These police, they're not doing anything that should surprise you. This is how they function. It's how they've always functioned. And you need to wake up, because they're going to keep doing it, and then eventually they're going to do it to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is criminal and civil rights attorney Jorge Gonzalez.
You know, we do say criminal defense attorney. We're not criminal lawyers. I want to start my remarks here by pointing out the fact that there are 2 individuals that came here and started trying to provoke a fight with us. They're standing back over there. Many of you reporters that were here while watching this. And after they threatened me, threatened Kian Smith, and threatened Najee Ali, I went and spoke to a sergeant over here, and I told him, you should remove these people because they're trying to start a fight. And what did he do? They're still over there. They haven't gone anywhere. And yet look at them. What kind of protection are they supposedly offering? What is this? This is everything's a standing logic on its head. We filed a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit in federal court 2 weeks ago, complaining of the kind of conduct that started way back on May 30th. Took place downtown in Grand Park, Pan Pacific Park, and then later on in Compton on June 21st, following one of the Andres Guardado rallies. And what we've seen is that the conduct of the Sheriff's Department has gotten worse. It's gotten progressively worse. They're shooting rubber bullets, they're using pepper spray, they're using tear gas, and this is all unprovoked. I've been interviewing numerous people that have suffered injuries, that have suffered violations of their rights, and to the person, almost nobody ever saw anything being thrown at the sheriffs until after the sheriffs already started shooting at them. Sometimes they responded. But I'm going to ask you this. We're going to pose this question in court. Legally speaking, if there's 100 demonstrators and one person throws a water bottle, do the other 99 innocent people become legitimate targets? You hear the answer. The answer is no. So what they're doing is they're targeting people. They're creating war zones. Look at this facility over here. Does it look like a facility that can be easily damaged by folks? Each and every demonstration that has taken place over here, they've had those silly little fake barbed wire barricades. I don't know, somebody calls them slinkies. They're like super slinkies, okay? Sheriff Villanueva will go down in history for inventing the super slinky, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? But we're gonna get him out because he got in on false pretenses. Unfortunately, most of the Latino community went into the ballot boxes and they looked. They saw was somebody with a Spanish surname. They said, "Oh yeah, voto por él," and we did it. We did it to ourselves. He claimed that he was going to take ICE out of the jails. He lied to us about that. Then the first thing he did was he went and hired deputies that had been fired for misconduct, including one that had been accused of and convicted of domestic violence against his girlfriend who was a deputy sheriff, hired him back. The board of supervisors said, no, you can't do that. He did it anyways. So then they decided to cut off his paycheck. Then they removed him from that emergency board that he was chairing at that time. So now it's a war. It's a war between Sheriff Villanueva, the board of supervisors, and the community at large. That's why what you're seeing is you're seeing this armed occupation. When he uses this nonsense of all the demonstrators that are coming down here are outside agitators, as was referred to earlier, ask yourself, how many deputies from his department live in this community? How many? Why should he resort to this 1930 style red baiting? It's because they're wrong on the law. They're absolutely wrong on the law, and they're going to find out very soon when we bring it to a judge and ask for some sanctions against them. I want to point out, before I leave, that there have been a number of demonstrators that have been injured. Many of them are here, and I'm going to ask all of you that can to please step up and reveal your injuries. I see a couple hips, stomachs, legs. I'd like the press to see this. These are mostly from rubber bullets, but there are other things, other more serious injuries. This is the work of our sheriff's department. This is the work of our sheriff's department protecting our community. These are the thugs that they're aiming at. The people who are out there putting their minds and bodies in front of injustice, ladies and gentlemen. That's who these people are. And we have everything but thanks. We have to thank them for what they're doing. These are the people that are our clients in this lawsuit. So last, I'm going to introduce Julianna Lacoste, who, as you can see, has a bandage around one of her wrists, and she's going to talk about the injuries that she suffered just the other day. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Julianna. Thank you so much for letting me speak. Justice for Dijon Kizzee, say his name. Dijon Kizzee! I'll just briefly tell you about what happened to me. As we were dispersing from Normandy, a number of shots had already been fired. I ran like a bullet myself down the street trying to escape the situation. We were being hit over and over with rubber bullets, as you can see, tear gas, everything. They were just letting it all go on us. I thought we had gotten away at that point because we were so far from where they had told us to disperse, and from where they started chasing us, to be honest with you. A barricade was moved. I was right in the front, and the sheriff started bull rushing us, running at us, and then started shooting at us. I turned down a side street once I thought we were out. Somebody asked me for a medic because she had swallowed some tear gas. So I put up an X, that's our call for a medic. And I started to pick up my pace a little bit because I wanted to see if somebody could hear me in the front. So I called for medic. At that point, I heard go off. They hit me in my hand. They hit me in my head. I was wearing a helmet, thank God. The helmet immediately popped off my head, and I was hit in the shoulder as well. At that point, I didn't even know, I didn't even see the sheriffs. I assumed it was them, of course, but I didn't even have time to see the sheriffs. I thought they were on the other side. They came from us from the back. So at that point, I was just trying to get cover. So I ran behind a car because I literally was just getting pelted and pelted. I need behind the car. There was a sheriff, and then all of a sudden there was a sheriff in front of me pointing a gun in my face. I put up my hands and I said, don't shoot, don't shoot. I was just shaking like a leaf, like, please don't shoot. I was crouched down behind this car, and then another person, I had no idea who it was or what it was, because again, it came from behind, grabbed my body. I had a backpack on. I'm a member of the press as well. I had my camera on, and he was wrestling with my body, trying to get a hold of me around my body and around my backpack, and then he grabbed my ponytail. Once he got a good hold of me, he ripped me from behind the car, slammed me down into the ground. I was like, my camera, I'm not resisting, my camera. Smashed my camera. Smashed my head into the ground, put his knee into my neck, into my back. See? Can you see that? Zip it down a little bit. At that point, I had so much pressure on me. I was like, I can't breathe. I'm not resisting. I can't breathe. And as the words came out of my mouth, I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this right now. I can't believe I'm saying I can't breathe right now. I thought I was gonna die because there was so much pressure on me. With the knee on me, that's when I felt him rustling around for cuffs. Then he put the silver cuffs on me. I was like, my hand, I've been shot in my hand, like I said. He put the silver cuffs on me so tight, so incredibly tight. I'm gonna take off this so you can see the bruise. Will you hold this for a second? This was on Tuesday. This was from Tuesday. Okay.
Don't shoot!
Let me just add that this is the same way that they began advancing towards my daughter at her first press conference. I told her we were just going to a press conference.
And the sheriffs chased us into that apartment complex where I began to see people get tackled. I watched people get punched as I cowered in fear as a veteran. How the hell am I in fear of the police out here? How am I in fear? We should not be in fear. They should be out here protecting and serving, but we're all coming to an understanding that it's comply or die. And even when we comply, we still get shot at. As I was cowering in my own fear with another fellow comrade, I watched people get beat up. I hoped and I prayed that we wouldn't get caught. But when you see that helicopter flying over us, they caught us. And guess what we did? I had to ask them, I'm a veteran. I have disabilities. Do not hurt me. Guess what they did? They still hurt me. I have a pinched nerve. I have tremors on my right arm, which what did they do? They twisted my hand back. What did they do? They snatched all my stuff. They took my medical equipment. They snatched my phone. And let's get to about my phone. I am with the Wall of Vets of Los Angeles. And the sheriffs, LASD, hijacked my Instagram. They hijacked my Instagram and they changed my bio to Blue Lives Matter and hashtag support Blue Lives. There is no such thing as Blue Lives. There is no such thing. There is no such thing. Stop fooling yourselves. You're brown, you're white, you're black, you're Asian. There is no Blue Lives. Under my arrest, I experienced a lot of people being in fear. I watched Liliana, her hand cuffed,
purple, bloody, in the back of the van, begging and pleading for them to loosen up the cuffs. We've asked them, please, she needs medical attention. Did they listen to us? No. Did they want to help her? No. Once we were inside, before that, actually had asked for a mask. They didn't give me a mask until the next day, 12 hours later. And I asked for a mask because they ripped it off my head once they arrested me. So they're not out there helping us. They're not helping anyone. Dijon Kizzee, Andres Guardado, no one was there. I want to say that we all need to be here. The family wants us here, we will be here. I have been here every night. I have been to a lot of different other protests. This is not the only one here. I am from here. I am from South Central Los Angeles, in case anyone wants to question that. Not one person is capable of speaking for everyone in the community. We are all here together, and anyone that's here today, you guys are all valid in being here today. So we're gonna make that clear. And I just want to thank everybody that is here. And thank you for listening to my story, because I will still keep coming. Thank you.
We have one more speaker, Catherine Chow, a concerned community member who was detained the other evening.
Thank you all for being here to hear our voices. I was here Tuesday night, and I was hit twice, once in my shoulder, once in my leg. The shoulder is pretty close to the head, and several others have also been hit on the head and on the neck. They don't care where they are aiming, they're just shooting. My sister was arrested, and the next day I came back to help with jail support. Me, along with 3 other comrades, decided to bring brooms, trash cans, and a baking powder solution to dilute the leftover pepper balls that the sheriffs have left.
And pools of blood.
And pools of blood. They did not care to clean up anything. They don't care about the neighborhood as they say they do. We were out there cleaning up, taking away all the leftover ammunition, when sheriff, out of nowhere, came behind us and rushed us. They detained us. They handcuffed 2 of the males, but did not handcuff me or the other female. They placed us into the back of their squad cars. They took our information. And then when we were released, they all asked to take our pictures. None of us consented. We all verbally said, we do not consent to our pictures being taken. They took it either way. We were released, and we tried to get back to our cars to leave. The 2 others were able to leave. Me, along with the other male, we were trying to get back to my sister and then go home. Once we started leaving, a few minutes later, down Normandy, just right there, they pulled us over again. Same officers, same squad cars, same department. They pulled us over claiming that they ran the license plate number and it was supposedly unregistered. Then when I asked another different officer, why am I being detained? He gave me a different answer and said that our windows were too tinted. So they handcuffed the driver, they brought him away, and then they took me and my sister and detained us and put us into another squad car in the back. Once again, they did not handcuff us, but only handcuffed the males. By then, I believe they had arrested him and brought him away. So my sister and I had no clue. We had no clue what they were doing to him, or if anything had happened. We were left in the squad car for about 10 to 15 minutes, and we watched them as they searched our car and detained several protective gear that we had to protect ourselves from their supposedly less than lethal ammunition. They even took our protest signs, which are literally just paper with paint on it. They towed the car, and with the car, all of our stuff was taken. And when they released us out, we asked, when will we be getting our stuff back? And where can we get our stuff back? They just said, we don't know. and they left us there stranded. I asked if I could have one phone call to get a ride home. They said no. They literally left us stranded, leaving us with nothing. And so my sister were able to reach someone and finally get home. But they targeted they targeted community members that were just trying to clean up their mess, and they tried to criminalize us, saying that we were spreading harmful substances. We were just trying to clean up. Thank you.
So we have one last speaker. Oh, okay. We have two more speakers.
Hey y'all, my name is Theo. I live in this area. I've been in this area for a minute. I'm out here protesting as well. I've been protesting before George Floyd. I was out here standing on the corner of 106 and Budlong when they killed AJ. And they sat there terrorizing the people who lived in that community, showing up, randomly arresting people, getting folks' kids taken away from them because now they got a case they got to fight. Now they have to, they can't go to work. All types of real issues that are happening. I'm for everybody out here who's doing this. I love it. I love that press is out here. I love that the National Lawyers Guild is out here. But the people who live in this community have been dealing with this for decades. Y'all are out here because of these kids who have come into this neighborhood and now getting hurt. It was the same exact thing with the Freedom Rides. No one cared when black people were getting slaughtered until the white folks who were in the schools came down to the south, and then it was all over the press. So y'all need to come down here because they ain't caring about us. We need that. Right? And we need y'all to not only show up for us here and take these bullets so that ain't our black bodies doing it no more. We need y'all for that, but we also need y'all money. We need y'all to fight for us because we can't fight in the court system. Half of us are on probation, so we can't be out here in the streets. We need y'all to come down. We need y'all to support us. We need y'all to help us out. Right? I've been out here. I was in the tunnel. I know that was the LAPD. I was out here 3 of the 5 past nights when they shot us up while we were just standing around and someone touched their precious slinky. And they shot indiscriminately against us, aiming at us. I was here. The most important night I want to talk about was Tuesday, when there was someone who hopped on the bullhorn and said, hey, let's not get kettle today. Let's not get tear gas, let's not do that. And took the entire line and backed it up into the corner of Imperial and Normandy, away from the sheriff's department. When that happened, as we were retreating on our own, this was before unlawful assembly was called, we were retreating on our own. That's when they decided to move their slinky and approach us. We were in full retreat on our own record. Yes, we were. Right? When they started approaching, thank you to everybody who had their signs, their umbrellas, who came out here to protect everybody else who was just here to mourn.
We take care of we.
We came to mourn. They advanced on us. They told us this is an unlawful assembly. You need to leave north of Normandy. When you take a look at all of the video that's out there, everybody who's on Normandy was shooting. Exactly what they told us to do, and they still opened fire on us. They still shot indiscriminately, and then they sent cars around the rock.
You know what LASD stands for? Literally all small dicks. That big, bro. That's how big your dick has to be to aim fucking guns at kids. You know that? You fucking piece of shit motherfucker. You're doing something so honorable. Where the fuck is your head at? Are you stupid? Are you actually stupid? Fucking motherfucker. You stupid fuck. Are you fucking kidding me? You just drop a fucking stinger grenade? You fucking idiot! You stupid motherfucker! And you know if that went off, all these other officers would start firing.
Send some medical supplies. Do whatever you can do. But come November, make sure that every single solitary one of you are voting with black people in mind. You have to vote for it that makes sense for our needs. Because we cannot do it alone. We need y'all. We need y'all.
I just want to say, you can't make this stuff up. This guy over here just dropped a grenade on the ground. It's like, you know, they come out here, we're just trying to have a press conference, and they come out in full riot gear. It's like, you can't make this up. Did we have the last speaker?
They're too stupid to be running the police force.
Our last speaker is Sean Robert Buckner Carmichael, another concerned community member.
Good evening, everyone. I just want, first of all, to thank all press. I want to thank the National Lawyers Guild. I do ask that everyone that currently has a camera really focus on the speakers, but I also ask that right now you do a 360-degree pan. The sheriffs have decided to kettle a peaceful press conference. Members of the press are kettled, medics are kettled, the National Lawyers Guild is currently kettled. We are fine, there is a way out, but they have decided to show force specifically to silence this press conference. One sheriff, I see you over there, dropped a stinger grenade, and I'd like to speak a little bit about stinger grenades. 3 days ago, that's what I'm doing. 3 days ago, I was with protesters. I was filming them. I was making sure that they are safe while they document and they protest the abuses of these same sheriffs. We have done a bad job of being here for South Los Angeles, in Los Angeles. We are not doing that anymore. We are here, we will not accept brutality anymore, and we will continue to fight them. Let me talk about what they do to protesters, to people that film, to press. A few days ago, they moved protesters out with an unlawful assembly order. They gave an amount of time. 5 minutes before that time was up, the protesters were backing away. They were leaving the scene. Several of them had to put on helmets, shoulder pads, not because they were trying to instigate, not because they were trying to fight the sheriffs. They did that because we know what was about to happen. When they started backing away, the line began moving up. They chased us for about half a block. After that, they got bored with walking. So several of the sheriffs began running at full speed with their batons out and began chasing us. They beat several people right over there. They began firing pepper bullets. They began firing foam bullets. They began throwing stinger grenades. I'd like to show you what those look like. Does this look like something that's non-lethal to you? This, when it explodes, flashes light, flashes heat. It burns, it maims. There's still gas in that. Gonna have to wash my hands later. So, what happened to me? I began getting fired upon. I got 5 rubber bullets. Shoulder, I got one on my knee, I got one in my groin area, I got one in my stomach, and I got one in the back of my knee. That's not including at least 7 different pepper balls. Those little red things right there, which look like candy, and the sheriffs think it's acceptable to leave on the street so that kids and dogs can see them. I was hurt real bad. I knew I needed medical attention. So I went off to a side street, but they weren't done. When I was off on a side street, they threw tear gas into the residential neighborhood so that I could not get back on the street. I was completely separated from all the protesters. That's when I laid down, started to feel all of my injuries, and they had one last thing for me. They threw one of those stinger grenades directly at me. It landed in my lap. It went off. I have burns that required me to go to the hospital. I will have to treat myself every day for at least 2 weeks. For what? For documenting what they're doing. I want to thank every single person that's here. I want to encourage every single person to not be afraid, because the more of us that are here, the more people that are putting cameras on their abuses, yeah, you, on their abuses, the fewer abuses they're going to be able to going forward. Thank you very much.
If anybody would like to give me their name and number and call me when you are out of the area so that we can make sure that you are safe, please also call me when you are home because they are targeting people. They are following people home. I was followed once after a protest by a commander of the LAPD. So they have no fucking boundaries. Be safe, stick together. We are all gonna walk to our cars together. My car is that way if anybody would like to join me. I apparently have to walk all the way around, so we're gonna maybe sing some camp songs. I don't know. I'm here to sing with you. Shit!